There we go on pine. Only thing on pine, the 3 hybrid comes in really handy on 18. So a lot of people use a special bag on pine. Um, so not sure if that's something you want to do at some point, but all right, 199. That is short. If you do get into using hybrids at all, one thing to know is that if you curve them, they curve a lot sharper than woods or irons. So you can often over curve it if you're not used to it. All right, so pine 4. This is one, certainly a setup like this. This is drivable with this wind. So you want to turn from this tee box, just come to this tee. The distance is, I mean, this is pretty easy, but sometimes you can even have distances of 430, 440, and it's still drivable because a lot of it depends on where the pin is. If it's a pretty big green, and if it's in the back, you can have it be drivable even if it says a huge distance. Basically, what I look for is if my kind of marker is touching those rocks, there's a good chance it's drivable. And touching those rocks with a 10-mile-an-hour wind should be fairly easy. I'll probably mess it up, but after saying that, but it should be. The other thing is, if you miss and water, they often still give you a pretty decent eagle chip. So it's a pretty low risk hole. So it's generally a full A1, maybe a little less than 1, kind of going out there. So yeah, and I actually overcut it, but it's on the green. It's a putt. So I probably should have pulled to around here on that setup. So 111 feet, anything 84 feet and over, maybe 83 feet, is going to turbo putt, which means it's going to go a little faster. So even though it's only down 3, I'm still going to C-putt it to slow it down a little. And that's going to go right, but see, the speed was there. Turbo putts also kind of, you don't have to go sideways as much. So if you have a turbo putt that's, say, left 4, you almost play it like it's left 3. The bad side of that, though, is if it's straight and you miss just a little, it kind of over curves. So, all right, here I'm gonna go low driver through the next. Turn to a soft driver, a little mini curve. Bounce it up there. From a little closer tee box, the 6-wood's really helpful going over those trees on the left. Goes over pretty easy, even just a medium 6-wood. So it's pretty versatile on that hole. Here I'm just going to put it up, let it, the winds, the backspin, and the green are all going to bring it right. So I'm just going to push left a good bit. Kind of let it come home, just get myself a putt. Not kind of worried about getting too close. This hole, most setups you just play out there. I actually, when the pin is kind of not all the way right or left, I actually like trying to go down to this hole, and then having anywhere from a 7-wood to even a 4-wood, kind of straight at it. That's a little far to drive into this wind, so I actually am going to go this way. But it's an option I like on this hole as well. just because it then gives you a long run at the green instead of trying to, you know, stick this little area here. So if you've already watched the Sandy video, when I was talking about kind of hard hit versus soft hit bite and stuff, you'll notice even on a 3-wood going that distance, the bite definitely stopped the ball and brought it back. Whereas if it was kind of hit that speed with bite, it would probably still roll. So that was a terrible 3-wood on this. Let's see, 341 with the wind. I'm going to do a high driver and probably hit it a little soft. So I'm a bit more than 1 click. So I'm going to do a full A and then a little short of a full 1. Hopefully we'll get kind of the right line for the hole. And it's going to bounce too far. And had I hit that even more towards the middle, would have had a much better line at the hole. Probably still would have went past the green. One thing on hole 10, especially when the pin is all the way to the left, depending on where you're on the tee box, if you can see that pin straight ahead of you, a driver, even a high driver from the front of the tee box will fit under those trees. So it's something to look for. If you have a pin all the way on the left, often you can just hit straight at it, and you don't need to curve on that hole. Fight the wind a little here and push it in the water. Should have fought the wind a lot more. So again, a little bit of sand here. I'm just going to try to chip this up. So just a little bite. I'm not sure how this hybrid's going to release out of the sand, but we'll see. Oh, there you go. Over here. Some here. Some medium. So on this hole, this is usually where you want to play from, somewhere down in here. There are winds where, you know, you can drive it up into this area here, or, you know, probably here. It's actually you're still using a driver to reach the green from there. So it's actually, even if you have a wind that reaches up there, it's often better to just put it down here. Do a little roll and maybe just keep it up there a bit. All right. This one usually a high driver. sometimes depending on the wind, you can even a high 4 wood will clear those trees. So especially if you have a pin in the top right, or the wind going the other way, a high 4 or a high 5, depending on the distance, can fly straight at it. But a setup like this is usually just a driver. So I'm gonna go medium T, so I have some hope of stopping it and just try to hit hard and fight that wind. And I went over, which is surprising. All right. So once you learn to chip with a hybrid, you can chip with pretty much any of them. That distance, you can also use a kind of 7 wood. That kind of 50-yard distance works well. It's just chipping is all about kind of what you get used to. I use a 9 and a 6 hybrid most of the time. Some people use the 7 iron. Just all depends what you kind of practice with and get used to. Get through. On a curve like this, I'm not good enough to put my 6 hybrid at that. I'll go over and in the water. So, something like here, I still just kind of put it on and putt. So in a hole like this with a wind, I'm going to use a C2 cut, and a 14-mile-an-hour wind with the 9 iron is probably about even. So I'm not gonna turn the camera. I'm gonna leave it right here. I moved it over a little just because the 9 might kind of be a little stronger than that 14, but I'm just gonna go C2, and so now the wind's gonna come in and just clip the rock a little, but probably maybe a 16-mile-an-hour wind might have kept it even, but and I missed it. Alright, so on this setup, of course, this is the one you don't need the 3 iron for. When you're in kind of the other tee boxes, there's a space in the trees on the left that the 3 hybrid fits through. Lots of, the low 5, low 4 sometimes get through. All depends. Here, a low driver gets through that hole in the trees. With that wind, it's not a bad shot. It'll be kind of long. The other option is to play a curve. Usually kind of fight the wind here, maybe with a 4 and kind of bounce it. But I'm going to try that low driver pretty soft. So let's see how it works. And there you go. And of course I missed the putt because I'm playing terrible today.